Hello, all 15 fans of the first video that we did about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago now. I hope whoever watched it enjoyed it. It was nerve-wracking as hell to make. That doesn't explain why I'm behind the camera today rather than in front of it. I just, with what I'm about to show you, I figured it was easier to use these bad boys to show you all these. But more to come on that in a sec. This is a video about a charity shop collecting, which is the main focus of my collecting, mainly because of where I live. There's no real video game stores to speak of. There's no semi-game stores. By that I mean shops that sell CDs, DVDs and games without having to go too far. But because of the slightly strange part of West London that I live in, there's this strange culture clash of posh shops at one part of the area I live in, and then the others is an enormous collection of charity shops. And the donations people make to these charity shops never fails to amaze me. Daily, certainly weekly, people drop off PlayStation 3s, they drop off huge lumps of games, things that as a collector you're flabbergasted as to why they do it. Obviously the generosity of spirit is one of them, but you would imagine that it would probably be, if they wanted to donate, it might be easy to sell the games and then donate the money, because these charity shops have a habit of selling games for no money at all. Everything that I'm about to show you in this pile just here was no more than £3 a piece. Often it's pocket change, 90p, 50p for a game. Sometimes they just say, what do you reckon? So it's a great way to collect, or certainly a great way to accumulate games into your collection. Just notice this Pluto shaped mark on my table, and this is a rented house that I'm in, and that is probably my deposit gum. So excellent. But without further ado, let's have a look at some of these games. Still getting into the swing of things in terms of how to present these videos, so apologies if I ramble on. Apologies if my facts aren't quite down, because my my brain's concentrating more on getting just the words out rather than whether they're entirely accurate. So the first game I picked up, this is about a week ago, is the Black Label version of Final Fantasy IX. I think the standout thing with Final Fantasy IX was the incredible quality of the music from Nobuo Uematsu in this game. All 4 discs. I need to find out whether this game came with a manual, because there's certainly not one in here, but I don't think this was ever played. The discs are in just the most immaculate quality you could ever wish this to be. I mean, this is you could sell this as new almost. Again, very rare with the PlayStation games to have no cracks in the case, no chips. Certainly in the original PlayStation cases, no cracks, no chips, very little surface scuffing, and yeah, 4 discs for 99p or possibly £1. An amazing pickup, and for me, controversially, for all those Final Fantasy VII fans, this I think is the greatest Final Fantasy that's ever been made. It enhanced and polished so much of what came before it, and when it was released in I think it was early 2000. It must be actually, because we're coming up to the 15th anniversary in October. It was just a revelation, this game, and I think I probably wouldn't be the only one that think it's maybe the best in the series. But I know there's a lot of Final Fantasy VII fans out there. But this is wonderful game, and always pleased to pick it up for £1. My collecting decisions will have to come to a head soon. I'm wondering whether it's going to be worth the cost and time to try and get a full PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 RPG collection. The main problem with that obviously is cost. With some of the RPGs, certainly for the PlayStation 1, going for crazy money now, certainly in the PAL regions. I think obviously more the bigger sales in Japan and USA region, so there's more of these discs. So in the PAL region, much more difficult to find. Obviously, scarcity means cost, and cost means miserable and sad Dan having to pay for them. But yeah, I'm going to make the decision soon as to whether go for the RPG collection or try and get the full PAL NES collection, which I'm well on the way to doing. But I have the commons and a few of the uncommons at the moment. I don't have anything approaching all the rares, and that's going to be equal, if not more, expensive to do than the RPGs for the PlayStation. The next one, a really interesting pickup actually. I wasn't familiar at all with this game. I'm a Kirby fan from the Game Boy era. I am sadly getting on. I'm probably giving away my age there. I recognise the artwork though. I wasn't, but not sure of the name. I wondered whether this was a reprint or a fake when I first got it. When I opened it up inside, the game isn't in it. It's actually in my DS at the moment. It was covered in green goo, and I had to. In fact, I'll put some photos up now of the state of it. But covered in green goo, had obviously been covered in some kind of Coca-Cola or Fanta. It was disgusting and stunk anyway. How anyone could have... No wonder they donated it to Charity Shop. This game was actually not called Canvas Curse in the PAL regions. It was called PAL Paintbrush, and I could have sworn as a student buying a PAL Paintbrush at 2 o'clock in the morning, drunk from one of those TV sort of shop things that they do when they've run out of programming. But yep, paid £1 for this. Really interesting game if you can find it. This is complete. Obviously the game isn't in at the moment, but a complete. Oh look, a manual. Don't see those anymore. Much anymore, do you? Really interesting game. It's fully stylus driven on the DS. 8 worlds to explore. Different game mechanic in different scenarios. But using the DS's stylus as a paintbrush on a canvas, essentially. Really, really interesting game. Well worth checking out. Relatively valuable game, but again, picked up for £1 from a charity shop, just to prove that they're not all just sports titles that come in. This actually is not a recent acquisition from the charity. This is my first ever charity shop pickup. You can imagine my excitement when I saw Atlus and Etrian Odyssey. I wasn't actually aware of the Etrian Odyssey games prior to finding this, but saw Atlus on the title, on the artwork, and I was for £1.99. I was not going to turn it down. It's some people will have seen the artwork and just sort of gone immediately. This thing is harder than carrying a fat granny. It's unbelievable. This. I don't think I've played a harder RPG than this, just for the amount of grinding you have to do and the amount of deaths you'll incur just to get through the first map, which you have to draw yourself using the bottom screen of the DS, which probably is illustrated here. You draw it and annotate it, with the top screen being a battle screen. Recommended only if you're recently released from an institute which deals with psychopaths, or you find these kind of games challenging. I loved it, but I love my RPGs and I love them old school. This is a real old school RPG that again came complete in the box. Yeah, DS there looking all nice and shiny. Certainly mine doesn't look like that anymore. This kills me with these old games. Bloody stickers on the front of the artwork on the instruction manuals. Put it on the back. There's nothing there. A barcode. Put it inside. Hotline. No one ever rings a hotline. Fucking right on the front. Ugh. Anyway, sorry about that little explosion. My light has just fallen off the desk. Hold on. But to be recommended, this isn't really recommended to go out and buy the games, but this is, again, just an example of some of the games you can find. And collectors, as far as I'm aware, don't seem to go to charity shops that often to find their games. Obviously, some do. I've caught a few guys. There's a few guys I know now in my local area that we try and beat each other to the punch on occasions. But people would look at that and not recognise it. And the general rule of thumb is with gaming, if it's a game with a funny name that you don't recognise, it's probably an RPG and it's probably relatively valuable. So, yeah, Etrian Odyssey, tough as nuts, tough as nails, but recommended if you fancy something that doesn't give you an easy option when you start the game. But as ever with an Atlus title, as a rule, you know it's going to be okay. The next game, the most expensive out of all of them, Shenmue II. Need to say 3 then, that would be difficult. And it would be a world exclusive, so I might even put that in the title of the video. You can see there, £2.99. The Xbox version of Shenmue 2 was, for some reason, not as well received as the one on the Dreamcast. I think possibly for the reverence in which 1 and 2 is held on the Dreamcast. I'm not sure what people were expecting. This came out shortly after the release of the Xbox, and I get the impression that some people were hoping to see a full remake of the game to sort of accompany its release, and it didn't really happen. It's just been a report essentially. It's not a full remade. It's the visuals are arguably slightly better with the upgraded console. I've not had a chance to play this yet because I want to put aside some time and maybe do an amended Let's Play. No one wants to see me play through the whole 30 hours or whatever it is, but maybe get some of the best bits. But again, an example of charity shop pricing, £2.99. This is worth at least 25 UK pounds, 30 plus US dollars. Terrific game. Having played it on the Dreamcast. Interesting thing about this, there was never a Shenmue 1 on the Xbox. Obviously, there was a Shenmue 2, so there was no way of porting your game data from 1 to 2 as there was with the Dreamcast version. So they had this weird compromise of pretty much giving you all the unlockables and items from the Dreamcast game and giving you them at the start of Shenmue 2 on the Xbox. And I don't know, it doesn't sit well with me out there. I don't see that it would have been that difficult to have devised a way of porting the data, perhaps with a cheap peripheral to maybe load the cards in. But anyway, yeah, so you start pretty much fully loaded from a first game that you'd never have played on the Xbox. But I was so pleased to pick this up. There was a guy next to me as I was buying this, and he just scooped up all the other games that were there. He scooped up some sports titles, and a copy of Fable, none of which I needed or want, and he left this, and I couldn't believe it. So I think there's a lot of resellers around where I am, and resellers don't necessarily know what they're looking for, and I was delighted to pick this up. For £2.99, $5 US. I'll buy that every time I see it for that price. A couple more things. This I bought, you probably won't recognise it, this is a really obscure PS2 title, Soul Divides. You may recognise though the distributor of this game, 505 Game Street, who were the PAL distributors of the infamous Rule of Rose title for the PS2, which was banned, I believe, certainly in the UK, not in France, but certainly in the UK, for having some child exploitation themes, which I don't think sat very well with the censors, unsurprisingly. I bought this literally because of 505 Game Street, who have a reputation of releasing hard-to-find games. I'd never heard of Soul Divide. It looks mental from the screenshots. But I thought I was being very clever. I thought, well, Rule of Rose was an Atlus title distributed by 505 Game Street in the PAL regions. So I would buy this, thinking, well, it must be an Atlus title. Well, it proves that I was totally wrong on all accounts. So Soul Divide was actually published by a small Japanese company called Psycho, who I've since found out created the amazing arcade shoot 'em up Sengoku Blade. That's in the mid-90s. I think it got a very, very late Sega Saturn or Dreamcast release, one of the two, later on. And Rule of Rose was published by Punchline, but distributed in the non-PAL regions by Atlus. So neither Rule of Rose nor Soul Divide were made by Atlus. So I got my facts completely wrong, but ended up with actually a very difficult to find game. This is, I think, sort of commonly sold price on eBay, range between sort of £20 and £30, 35, 40 US dollars. And it looks, like I said, mental, this game. The character animations look like they've been recorded by the same team that did the character animations for Mortal Kombat 3. That kind of live action, few frames of animation character recording. It's a side-scrolling shmup like your Gradiuses, your R-Types, but with the RPG elements of like a Dungeons and Dragons arcade game almost. Really, really strange, strange looking game. Keen to play it. I haven't actually had time to play it yet. I've been doing recently. I've been doing a replay through God of War, which I played as a kind of as an early 20s person, and never gave it too much time. So I've been replaying God of War and moving on to God of War 2 soon. But I'm definitely going to play this. It's really mixed reviews from the people that reviewed it at the time. I think some reviews were as low as like 45%, 5 out of 10, up to 8, 9 out of 10. So I guess it depends whether you are into your hybrid shmup RPG Mortal Kombat looking games or you're not. It's quite a niche market, I would imagine. But yeah, Soul Divide turns out to be very good. But again, cherry shop purchase, £1. Another example of what can be bought. And the third we'll talk about, this is the sixth thing, sixth and final thing, is Thundercats, the complete season 2. Obviously this isn't a game, but it is the full, I think 1,300 minutes, 1,387 minutes of Thundercat goodness. Retails for £20 GB. This is, as you can see, sealed, essentially brand new. And oh hello, really pleased with it. £2.99 from my local cancer research shop. Fantastic, one of my most favourite cartoons growing up. I was not an anime fan particularly because we didn't get it, because I didn't have the posh cable networks. I was stuck with what we had on Channel 4, the likes of Jason World Warriors, Where in the World is Carmen San Diego, and Thundercats. This is season 2. I've been trying to work out whether this is the full season 2 or whether this is part of season 2, because season 2 of Thundercats technically began with 2 mini-series. Thundercats Ho, which I think was released in 5 parts. It certainly was in the UK. And then the second part, which obviously brings on the story of season 1, when we find out that Mumra doesn't die, Mumra lives. It comes after that, and then we get into the bones of season 2. But there's 23 episodes in total in season 2. So I can only assume that the 2 miniseries are included, so I'd be surprised if it wasn't. But again, like 12 discs for £2.99, unbelievable value. But yeah, that's just an example of some of the goodness that you can get in these charity shops. I mean, it's, you know, there's a total of about £12 worth of games and DVDs here. I think if you were to sell them on eBay, you would be able to command well over £100 for in total. Let's have a look. 20, 40, 70, perhaps 10 for Etrian Odyssey and 10 for Kirby, and another 20 Final Fantasy. Easily £100 worth of titles here, not including eBay fees. But yeah, always good if you're out and about. Go in charity shops. They do smell sometimes. Some of the games will be in disgusting condition. You'll have to give them a bit of TLC, a bit of love and affection to get them back to working order. But yeah, I just wanted to sort of tell you the secrets of charity shops, really. The kind of games you can find in them if you look hard enough, and go out, support your charity shops. You know, the more you support them, hopefully the more donations they'll get, and the more money they'll make, and the more games they'll put out if they seem to be selling them. So yeah, bit of a lengthy ramble. I hope I said some interesting stuff in there, and see you again next time. Cheers.